while blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Atom boys, give her the gun. Now
Hello, this is John Aker, call sign Nomad. This is my YouTube channel. The top line of the splash screen is their YouTube is calling a handle, part of the URL to find this channel, youtube.com/@John Aker, aviating author. And note the dots, the periods between the last four words. That forms the handle. This introduction is the first of more than a dozen videos that I generated that follow my autobiography, recollections, my life in and out of the military. And they will represent planes I flew during the 18 years of active flying status I was on during my 20-year military career as a United States Air Force pilot. I found software that runs in the computer flight simulator world, matching airplanes that I flew in real life. And I narrate them with a narrative stream of consciousness, stories of what was happening in my life during the times when I flew those airplanes. And, well, they're war stories, you know, of course. And in war stories, you have to be careful because the first liar ain't got a chance. You'll learn a little bit about computer flight simulators and videos, the equipment I use to get it done, and we'll have some fun. And check your six back there. I might be on your tail. Nomad is back. Let's take a look at the rest of this series.
Moving west from West Texas and Arizona, on the northwest side of Phoenix, Arizona, is a town called Glendale, where we found Luke Air Force Base. It was named after Frank Luke, was a pilot for the Army Air Corps in World War I. You can see it highlighted on the slide there. The F84 was the Thunderstreak. It was the first of the bent wing, or airplanes built by Republic. Meant it was capable of supersonic. We'll talk about that later. This is the fourth edition in our series, so let's get on with the rest of the video. The Nomad is back again. This is John Aker, coming to you this time from Luke Air Force Base, which is northwest of Phoenix, Arizona. Luke was named after a gentleman by the name of Frank Luke. World War I. He was the number 2 ace of the war with 19 kills. Luke has an elevation just short of 1,100 feet, so that's easy to keep track of on the altimeter. And my call sign's Nomad. This is 1957, and this video is being recorded in Flight Simulator 10 FSX. Let's crank the engine up. That was easy. Start. The start in the F84. I'm going to pause the simulator for a second here. In real life, we did cartridge starts. We didn't have an APU. There was an explosive cartridge that was inserted. It was a one-shot deal. it went off. When we hit the switch, it went off, spun the turbine up, and if everything went right, she lit off and you had to go. There was a cardinal rule when you shut down an engine in the F84, that is, never turn the fuel switch to off before the engine totally spools down. I climbed in one morning, going through the pre-start checklist, and grabbed the fuel selector switch, and it was locked tighter than a drum and off. The student ahead of me had set it to off before the engine wound down, got a vapor lock, and I was stuck. Remembered some instructions from the instructors. When all else fails, listen to them. Get everything set, hit the cartridge start switch, and as soon as it spools up, hopefully the vapor lock is sucked out of the line and you can set the switch on. There were several switches to hit in the sequence, and it was handy if you had both hands available, and I didn't. I had to keep my left hand on that fuel selector valve. Hit the switches, the vapor lock disappeared. I got the valve to all tanks setting, engine good start, and I saved the day for myself. Probably would have been in trouble with the instructor. There's a, remember in the T-33 I said we had boosted ailerons and shook the wings off on the first time out. In the F-84 you didn't even have elevators, you had a stabilizer, a slab back there, and you can see it. The whole slab moves, so you move it to fly and you also trim that slab out. One other thing I want to point out here while we're sitting on the ground is the canopy. Notice it's a little different canopy arrangement. This was part of the ejection sequence. Open the canopy, should go up to this part, squibs fire, canopy comes off, goes out in the slipstream. The other alternative was, if the canopy would not open, you could eject through the canopy. There was nothing in the book about this situation. Let's say you popped the canopy and it opened this far and didn't leave the airplane. Take a look at where the front frame of that canopy is sitting. Right smack over your head. Not a good place to eject. Okay, let's get that canopy closed. That'll take us on a short ride down south to a gunnery range and back up here. Back into Luke for a landing. We'll be taking off on 21 right here, and we'll land northbound on the opposite runway, 03 right. F-84 was here for gunnery school. Release the brakes. One other thing, let me point out the wide tread between the main gear. That was handy for us students. It was virtually impossible to ground loop the F84F. And she was overweight and underpowered. We did have one thing going for us. They installed a dirt sniffer. The old dirt sniffer. It got down to the end of the runway. If it sniffed dirt, it rotated and you took off. I didn't need it this time out. Let's see what the cockpit looks like. It's a fairly decent cockpit. Not everything in the cockpit works. The main gauges in the center of the instrument panel are okay. Excuse me there. Those of you who've flown with me before know I have a what I call my cheat sheet map up on a second monitor. And I still haven't figured, I'm going to have to look into that one day. See why when I go over there and click on that map, it puts the simulator in pause. That's where we got the pause just a moment ago. Okay, the F84 is a single seat jet fighter, fighter bomber, built by Republic. Typical underpowered. She was designed to get the J57 afterburning engine, which eventually ended up in the F100. But the airframe was ready before the engine was. So they put in a J35, which was decent, but not as much power as she really needed. And we're headed down south towards Gila Bend and Ajo, Ajo, which was on the Barry M. Goldwater gunnery range. This was the first swept-wing airplane I flew, so she was capable of supersonic flight. I think its second or third ride was our Mach Buster ride, so we kept the Mach as high as possible in the climbed to 35,000 feet. Didn't even push the nose over, just released pressure and let the nose kind of fall on its own. Shoved the stick forward almost up into the instrument panel, about a 30-40 degree dive, and watched the Mach meter slowly climb to 1.01, so we were officially Mach Busters by that time. The other half of my class, 57I, was across town at Williams Air Force Base flying the F86. Williams was affectionately known as Willie. And let's get a peek at up here. Remember the mentioned in the T-33, when you popped the speed brakes, they came out the belly, gave you a pitch up. They learned a little something from that. And you can see the speed brakes come out of the side, both sides of the fuselage. So the drag was at least symmetrical when they popped. Get a little more altitude here. This airplane had some capabilities that we weren't used to. She was air refueling capable. There was a receptacle door on the top of the left wing. To get off the ground with super heavy weights. Talk about those later. You could use jet assisted takeoff, JATO bottles strapped to the fuselage that were jettisoned after takeoff. And the airplane had a built-in autopilot. None of those three did we ever check out or get to try, especially that autopilot. And now we're up to airplanes that could pull some G's, heavy G's. So we were issued a G suit. Most of the guys got what they called chaps, kind of like the old Western chaps. You buckled them around your waist and zipped them up the legs, and those there were bladders in the belly and the legs to help you fight off the effect of G forces. I got there too late for those. I got a flight suit with built-in bladders. Kind of ugly, but it worked most of the time. Although one time coming out of the bottom of a loop, I was number 4 in trail acrobatics. I was a little behind 3, so I pushed the power up a little bit to try to gain on them some, and pulling out the bottom, they talked about tunnel vision and blacking out. And I saw tunnel vision coming. I was losing my peripheral vision, and it was closing down. And I said, behind or not, be damned, it's time to ease off the G's and come out of this. I was grunting and groaning and screaming into my mask, and it still didn't work. The G's were getting me, so eased off the back stick coming out, and the vision came back. That town we're coming up on just right of the nose is Gila Bend. And this is a single-seater, so the only dual time we ever had in the airplane was we had to have a taxi check. Crank the engines, strapped in the cockpit. The instructor standing on the left wing, leaning left the canopy open for him. He's leaning into the cockpit with his head in there, watching us. Taxied around the parking area, got back out, parked her, and that was it. After that, it was solo all the way. There wasn't any dual time to fly. And one other thing about the Republic, this was the forerunner of the F105 Thunder Chief, or the Thunder Thud, or the Thud, well known in Vietnam. Hell of a fighter bomber, and lost a lot of good guys flying it. We're making a turn over an auxiliary field here, and we're in the gunnery range area now. We use 100-pound practice bombs, painted blue, about a foot in diameter, maybe 3 feet long. Had a small explosive charge in the nose, so when she hit, the range observers could give you a grade. And I'm going to demonstrate skip bombing.
Pull up.
Oh, there's Bitchin' Benny out there. I don't know what he's doing. Skip bombing. There was a gun sight pepper on the heads-up display. The real airplane didn't have that HUD, that HUD that you see there. Skip bombing, 250 knots, 35 feet off the ground. When the pepper reached the target, big white target stretched across. Okay, I'm gonna pick that old tree out.
Terrain. Sink rate. Sink rate.
No, we're just
Too low. Terrain.
We're just going balls for all across the desert here, folks.
Too low.
Hush, Benny. And there's the pepper coming up on it. They hit the release pickle switch. Put some power on her. Make a climb and turn to get the hell out of Dodge. The only reason I demonstrated, that was one of the few things here at Luke I was good at. I got a couple of hits on the bomb runs. If couple of scratches on the air-to-ground targets. One target that was totally safe was the air-to-air rag that the T-33s pulled that we made passes on. And we're going to turn around and head back towards Luke. Never scratched that air-to-air rag, so I don't figure I was destined to be the world's ace fighter pilot. But he kept going. Formation was a tough one too. I was doing my best to get used to flying formation. Saw my instructor's wing one day. Flew sloppy. It was a sloppy flight, I admit it. And he gave me a pink slip for flying sloppy formation. And so I needed to do something to get that erased or confirmed. So he put me up with another instructor a couple of days later. Didn't tell the instructor what the problem was. Just sent me out there. And I knew what my instructor was after. I glued myself to that instructor's wing, and I could count rivets on that airplane. Flew over mission, whatever it was, came back into the pattern, landed. He gave me a pink slip for flying too close. My instructor went to him and told him what the story was. He says, "Okay, we can erase it." That second pink slip, which was good because you didn't get too many pink slips before you were out of the flying program. Okay, a couple other types of bombing I want to mention. And these were designed primarily for delivering nuclear weapons, because the F84F was capable of hauling a nuclear weapon. In ground school, they told us all about the innards and how Little Man and Big Boy were built and what they looked like on the inside, and all that was top secret material. And since then, I've seen it all in Time magazine, so it ain't as top secret as it once was. If they could strap one of those on your belly and send you out. Toss bombing was coming across an IP, an initial point, hitting the pickle switch that started a timer. You could activate the pickle switch either on a timer or direct. If it was direct, you hit the pickle switch, the bomb came off. If it was set on timer, you hit the pickle switch, the timer started, told you when to start your pull up. When you hit the proper angle of climb, the bomb released on its own. A young trooper went down. I mentioned the Ajo. There was a north-south road running through Ajo down there, south Gila Bend. And that was the initial point for one of the bomb runs. And the student came across there, set up his switches wrong. And when he hit that road, the IP, he hit the pickle switch, and instead of starting the timer, the bomb came off. He dropped a little short. Fortunately, there was nothing out there in that desert for it to hit. And the other incident happened over at Willie in the F-86s. And this was on over-the-shoulder bomb run. Let's get back in the cockpit for a minute. Okay, he's flying over the shoulder. The initial point was the target itself. So you drove straight into the target. When you were smack over the target, you hit the pickle switch and began a hard pull up to the vertical. The timer went to work, and all that, those innards figured out what was going on and released the bomb going straight up. The bomb went straight up, and that's when you started to pull over to get the hell out of Dodge again, because when that baby hit, there's going to be a big flash of light and a boom. Well, the cardinal rule in over the shoulder was never hit the IP before you hear the range observer call splash from the airplane ahead of you. It meant the pilot ahead of you let his bomb go. He pulled off, the bomb went up, came down and hit the target on the range. The observer called splash. Our young trooper says, I must have just missed the splash call. It's okay, I'll drive on in. Well, he hit the IP, that is the target, and as he began just before he started his pull-up, that bomb from the previous airplane went through his wing. They were fortunate. Over at Willie, they threw 10-pound iron bombs, maybe 3 inches in diameter and a foot long, with a little charge in the nose. And somehow it went through the wing. It didn't cause damage enough to disable the aircraft. And he landed, and embarrassed, of course.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Okay, we're getting fairly close to... Oh. Flying a simulator from this external view is not the easiest thing to do. I think maybe I just step back inside. Okay, I got the speed brakes out, kill off some airspeed here. Time to get some gear down. Put a couple of notches of flaps in there. Let's see what she looks like inside here. Okay, a little bit left of the runway center line. And below the glide slope. I think I mentioned it earlier. I'm flying this approach off the HUD, heads-up display, which is handy here, but we didn't have that in real life. The only thing that displayed on that class panel in front was the gunnery pepper, which we could man in a range with the throttle grip. Put the rest of the flaps down here. See if we can kill off a little airspeed. Mobilizer's looking fairly good, a little bit above the glide slope. I'm a little high on airspeed. Nothing you like better than landing high, hot, and long. No, hush, Benny, we'll make it. I have all the faith in the world in you.
Think rate. Think rate. Think rate.
Yeah, we're coming down on the glide slope.
Think rate.
Don't sink.
And
Don't
airspeed
sink.
is just a hair on the high side.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Get the boards out, get on the binders. Get the flaps up, a little less lift on the wings. Track those. And we can take this taxiway off. That word I used on the landing for brakes, right, reminded me another story I wanted to mention. A friend of mine trying a little individuality on our typical landing pattern. We turned from base to final. There was a call we had to make. Gave your call sign and said, 3 wheels checked, 3 wheels down, brakes checked. We looked at the 3 green lights on the panel. You tap the brake pedals. Look for a fluctuation of hydraulic pressure. So my friend turned final one day, so gave his call sign. It says 3 rollers and 2 binders. And the word came down very shortly thereafter. There'll be no more individualistic call signs. Turning final. Hot out here, so let's open the canopy. We are back at Luke. On the next flight, we'll pick up from here, head north to southern Nevada, to Nellis Air Force Base outside of Las Vegas. We'll fly the F100A model, advanced gunnery. So that's it for the day. It's a Nomad telling you to keep your head on a swivel. Now your eyes on your 6. I may be back there. Nomad's clear.
If you enjoyed some of this material, you might reach up there and click that like button. Want to come back, hit the subscribe to this channel. This is John Aker, call sign Nomad. Flying flight simulators based on my career as a U.S. Air Force pilot.